everybody. Happy Thursday, everybody. Monday, Thursday today, I think. Oh, he doesn't want to cuddle. Hi, Mrs. Naylor. Sorry everybody about YouTube. I tried to do it and it was there ready, all labels and everything, and then when you pressed go live, it just it was just like the swirly loading symbol for about half an hour. So who knows? I'll investigate it. We might just have to stick to doing Facebook Lives and then posting them. Me then just uploading them onto YouTube. It might just be easier like that. Hi Mrs. Green, hi Miss Potter. So excited to finish the book. Looks like Albie is as well. He's just walked all over the keys of my laptop. I dread to think what he's done. Just staring at me. Hi Mrs. M. Hi Liam. Hi Mrs. Henderson. Hi rest of the Moodies, Mr. M, Oscar, Seth. Hi Jack, hi Freddie. Again. I've already seen you two today, haven't I? Knock the iPad over. Hi Caris, eating rich teas. One more. Yes, thank you for asking. My iPad has recovered. It actually, by the time I'd finished recording on my phone yesterday, it had cooled down in the fridge, thankfully. But I've decided to stick to the dining room today to avoid that happening again. Hi Lauren and JB. Oh, no worries, Tom. Online piano lesson, cool. Hi Emily. Glad you like the shots of Albie. I'll give it one more minute. So we are starting with chapter 43. And we ended on that big cliffhanger, as usual, didn't we? Where Chaya, Neil and Nawa were in the prison, and in the morning, I think, they were going to be sent to the king, weren't they? And probably sentenced to death for that big list of things that the General Siri... Where's that big list? stealing the Queen's jewels, breaking into jail, releasing all the prisoners, causing damage and destruction in the royal compound, stealing the king's elephant, bringing bandits into the village and finally setting fire to it. You can kiss your lives goodbye, he said, didn't he? Then he took them to the prison and said the king was going to see them. Neil tried to say to them, let me tell them that it was all me, but Chaya said no. And the last line was, they were finally at the mercy of the king. Okay, chapter 43. The long stone pavilion stretched out in front of Chaya, pillared on either side with thick columns. Through them, a pond rippled in the sunshine, 3 purple lotuses peeping out of the centre of it. Neil and Noah stood on either side of her, and beyond them stood 2 guards, spears pointed towards them. In front of them was the king. He was on his throne of gold, a servant boy on one side fanning him with a giant ola leaf. An armlet of blue sapphires and cat's eyes encircled the king's muscular upper arm, the jewels bigger than any Chaya had seen. He leaned forward and looked down at her. He wore his hair tied up in a knot on his head, ringed with a band of gold. He couldn't look more different from Leela. Leela, who was imprisoned at the moment in the king's dungeons. One of the guards holding the spear looked at Chaya from the corner of his eye. He was very young and there was something vaguely familiar about him. So, the king's hooded gaze travelled over Chaya, Noah and Neil. Am I to believe that these are the cause of so much chaos in my kingdom? He leaned back on his throne. 3 children? That's right, Your Majesty, said General Siri from where he was standing on the left of the throne. Alongside him sat a row of important people in gilt armchairs, lords of the different provinces of Serendib. The boy has just turned 13, hardly a child. Chaya glared at the general, as if that made any difference. And the girls outwitted a whole battalion of guards to release him from prison? General Siri went red. It appears so. The girl in the centre is a cunning, devious child who's caused no end of trouble for her village. I see, said the king. So this is her, the girl who stole an elephant. It's the line of the book. That's right, Your Majesty, said General Siri. She's the daughter of the headman of Narissa. Ah, said the king, the man who claims to know nothing about anything. That's because he doesn't, said Chaya. He hasn't heard a word from me since I left. General Siri silenced her with a look. They had help as well. 2 bandits they led into the village were captured with them. Good, said the king. They'll have the same punishment. May I speak, Your Majesty? Came a voice from the back. Chaya turned to see Auntie, along with the rest of the villagers of Narissa, who had been given special dispensation to stay and watch. The king waved a hand at her. My niece, she said, her voice breaking. Please, Your Majesty, she's been very foolish, but she's just a child. Please forgive her. I'll make sure she is punished and will never do such a thing again. I will take her away, far away from here, so she doesn't cause any more trouble. I don't think so, said the king. He rested his arms on the side of his seat. She must answer for her crimes. Silence, said General Siri. Don't answer back to His Majesty if you know what's good for you. This isn't only about the jewels. People would have died yesterday if we didn't get to the village when we did. Who's the other girl? The king clicked his fingers at the servant boy to fan faster. A curious story, said General Siri. When Her Majesty the Queen got her jewels back, she noticed something strange. The jewels were in an expensive drawstring bag, the type of material of which is not to be found on this island. Chaya's heart sank. She'd put the jewels in her pouch when she stole them, until she packed them into Neil's box. But when Noah brought them back, it was definitely in a drawstring bag, all transparent geometric silk with a pretty ribbon. General Siri cleared his throat. Perhaps the cinnamon peeler's son had a spare one lying about at his house, or Headman Saraf collected his wages for a year and got one of the silk merchants to bring one back from his next trip. Can someone explain? Chapter 44. Let's see who else is on. Mac's on. Hi, Mac. And Mrs. Yates. Hi, Mrs. Yates. Chaya gulped. Poor Naua. She had nothing to do with the robbery, although it was telling that the Queen hadn't even noticed the missing cat's eye pendant that had paid for Vijay's treatment. It's mine, said Naua. The bag was mine, but I didn't steal the jewels. The king looked furious. Why would the jewels be in your bag then? I didn't, Your Majesty. Naua took a deep breath. It's a long story, but the jewels were put into a wooden box in Neelan's carpentry workshop, and then I bought the box and took it home. Then I put the jewels into this bag and left the box on my dressing table, and then Chaya stole the box from me. Then I went back to the workshop with the jewels in a... Enough! Shouted the king. He stood up in a rage, spitting out his words and his eyes bulging from their sockets. Do you take me for a fool? Everyone shrank back at the king's outburst, except General Siri, who didn't even flinch. It's the truth, said Chaya. Ask her father, or the carpenter Kumar. They were both there when Naua bought the box. The merchant Kasim is out of town, said General Siri, looking for his daughter, as he has been since she went missing. In any case, I recall seeing both girls at the carpenter's workshop when the boy was arrested. He turned to the king. The girl denies the charge, even though the evidence is clear that she's involved. I sentence her to death, said the king. You can't do this, said Chaya. Naua is innocent. Please, Your Majesty, started Neil. Keep quiet, both of you, snapped General Siri. Don't speak out of turn to the king. But she's innocent. She did nothing. I told you to shut up. General Siri unrolled a document and read from it. You, Neelan, son of Ram the cinnamon peeler, do you admit to breaking into the palace and stealing the Queen's jewels? Yes, sir, all on my own. Do you admit to leading 2 criminals into Narissa village with the intent to damage and loot? Yes, sir. General Siri folded up the document. I sentence the boy to death, said the king. A fire danced deep in Chaya's chest. The king had made his decision so quickly, without an ounce of feeling. A cry came from somewhere. Neil's mother was sobbing from the back, in the crowd of villagers along with Auntie. You, Chaya, daughter of Headman Sarath, said General Siri, reading from a different document. Do you admit to helping Neelan, son of Ram, escape prison? Yes, but only because he shouldn't have been... I told you to shut up. Just answer the question. Do you admit to leading 2 criminals into Narissa village with the intent to rob and destroy? Chaya gulped. The fire was an accident. Do you admit to stealing the king's elephant? That, yes, totally. General Siri looked at the king. The girl has admitted to all charges against her too. No, The king's voice rasped out his verdict. The girl dies too. On Chaya's left, the guard with the spear sighed and closed his eyes. The king flicked his hand. Get them out of my sight, and do it now. Oh my goodness. We've only got a couple of chapters left. It's going to be a big save, isn't it, at this point? Chapter 45. No! Yelled Chaya. Hands grabbed at the children as a guard tried to bundle them away out of the pavilion. Wait! Chaya struggled against them. We want to see the bandits' trial too. Let them stay, said General Siri. Though I'm warning you, he addressed Chaya, nothing is going to change for you. The crowd behind them whispered among themselves as 2 ragged people were brought into the pavilion by a cluster of guards. They weren't putting up a struggle, but walked freely towards the king. It was Gamage and Leela. Her head was held high as always, and her eyes were fixed on the king as she came up the wide stone steps. In spite of her raggedness, there was something majestic about her small figure, making its way surely towards the front of the pavilion and the king. The king hardly looked at them. Get this over with quickly, he said to General Siri. Gamage stopped to the left of the trio, but Leela walked on, to stand just in front of the king. What are you doing? Yelled General Siri. Stand back from the king. The king looked up in surprise. Hello, brother. Leela smiled up at him. It's been a long time. Chapter 46. The king started. A look of wild panic flashed across his face. In a millisecond he had composed himself. "How dare you?" he said. "Guards, take away this woman who speaks to me so freely." "Surely you recognise me, brother?" Leela was unperturbed. 12 years is a long time, but you must have known this day would come. A silence fell over the audience hall. Everyone stood mutely, as if watching the Thursday night drama at the village square. General Siri looked from the king to Leela and back again, as if trying to understand what was happening. "What are you doing?" bellowed the king. "Seize her, now, both of them!" The king's outburst galvanised the guards into action. They jumped forward, but Leela held up her hand. "There's no need for that. I'll come quietly, but you need to listen to me first." She turned to the crowd. "I am the king's half-sister, daughter of your old king. I came back not to cause trouble, but to help my people." Behind them, the villagers looked astounded. Princess Leela! Her name rippled through the crowd, incredulously at first, then reverently. "They don't need your help," shouted the king. Leela was unruffled. "That is not for you to say." "Do you—" General Siri sputtered. "Do you want them taken away now, your majesty?" "Be quiet, General," said Leela. "I won't be long." She addressed the people again. "We don't have to live like this, in fear all the time, with everyone only fending for themselves. I'm here for you." "You?" The king laughed mirthlessly. "You think the people are going to listen to you? They know that what's good for them is a strong leader who will rule with an iron fist. Not you. They will never accept you." "There is no they or me, brother. There is only us." The villagers muttered among themselves. They seemed unsure and scared. "What are you waiting for?" The king paced to the end of his platform and yelled at General Siri. "Take them away, all of them. Put them to death at once. And anyone who's caught agreeing with a word this crazy woman has said," he glared at the people threateningly, "will be dead too." Chapter 47. Is this the last one? No, 2 more chapters. Chapter 47. The children were hauled out first. "Good riddance," whispered a villager as they were dragged past. "Our troubles will be over at last with you gone." "You don't have to do this," yelled Chaya. "Why do we have to be ruled by someone everyone is scared of? We can put this right together." "Keep quiet, thief," said a woman. "Don't make the king angrier than he is already." "Neelan!" wailed his mother, and she tried to clutch him as they dragged him past. "We were only going to help you." Nawa's face was streaked with tears. "Why do you think Chaya rang the bell?" said Neil. "That brought the king's men and they put out the fire. We could have run away, but she saved the village instead." A couple of the villagers looked confused and chattered among each other. "That couldn't have been her," said one. "The plinth is broken. She couldn't reach the bell." "She stood on the elephant," said Nawa. "Think about it. No one else could have rung it." "We don't believe you liars," said the woman with the baby from earlier. "Steal is all she's ever done. Don't think we don't know, just because she hasn't been caught before." "And now she's trying to be a revolutionary," an old man cackled, and people around him joined in. "Yes, I'm a thief," Chaya yelled with all her might, for all her taunters to hear. "But you know what? My thieving paid for your roof, Chatora." Chatora looked startled. There was an "Is that true?" from someone close to him. He nodded slowly. "And you, Samana?" Chaya jabbed her finger at the people she'd helped as a guard pushed her roughly through the crowd. "My thieving paid for your son's books, and Vijay's leg, and David's vegetable cart." Murmurs ran through the crowd. "And Tuan would be dead, and Marikar's children starved if it wasn't for my thieving." People were starting to look uncomfortable now. "And you say you're a strong leader, brother?" Leela's voice rang out and a hush fell over everyone. "A child needs to steal so that the basic needs of your people are met." The guard pointing his spear at Leela looked at Chaya across the crowds. His familiar face creased into a look of resolve. He drew back the spear and rested it on the ground. "What are you doing?" yelled the king. The guard stared at the king obstinately, then dropped the spear on the floor, where it fell with a clatter. "Well done, son," shouted a female voice from the back. And that's when Chaya realised why he looked so familiar. The guard was Vijay's brother, the boy she'd stolen the jewels for. Seeing this, the guard next to Gamage lowered his spear too. "She's right," shouted one of the villagers. "Why should we live like this?" "While the king and his ministers grow richer on our country's wealth," shouted someone else. The lords of Serendib's provinces looked on stonily. For the first time, a look of fear crossed the king's face. The hands binding Chaya dropped away. Leela took a step forward. General Siri watched and said nothing, waiting to see which side to choose. The villagers advanced to the front of the pavilion, filtering through the guards who put down their weapons. From beyond the pavilion came more villagers, until clusters of them were amassed around the pavilion. You could hear a pin drop. There was no need for an attack. The king and his few supporters were well and truly outnumbered. Leela advanced until she was standing at the foot of the throne. The king gulped. "Very well," he said. General Siri's voice rang out over everyone as the king stepped down. "All hail the new queen of Serendib." It worked. Last chapter then, last little bit. Chapter 48. Chaya looked at the bronze spear pointing at her neck. "You're back!" She smiled at the guard. It was the one who had been fired when she'd got into the royal compound. He grinned and put the spear down by his side. "I didn't think you'd recognise me. Queen Leela had someone trace me and give me my job back." "Well, it's nice to see you again," said Chaya. "You lost your job because of me." The Queen is so forgiving. Most of us are still here, even those who didn't side with her to begin with. By the way, I'm not going to let you go up there today. Anything past the lion's entrance is strictly out of bounds to the public, remember? "I'm actually here by invitation," said Chaya grandly. She pulled out a rolled-up card and gave it to him. It was a request to go and see General Siri for a special reward. He read it and whistled. "All right, go on up. Someone will direct you to General Siri's offices." Neil was already waiting when she was shown in, and Nawa came in shortly after. A guard then pointed them into a large room with a wide window overlooking the promenade. General Siri leaned on the edge of an ornate ebony desk, waiting for them. He seemed to have been relegated to a clerical position, but in spite of that, everything about the room was dazzlingly rich, from the creamy velvet seats of the heavily carved chairs to the jewel-studded letter opener on the table. "Leave us," he said to the guard. Through the window behind him they could see families milling about in the grounds, enjoying a feast being held to mark the beginning of a new reign. "The Queen has requested I give you these," said General Siri, handing over 3 silver plaques. He couldn't have looked more miserable if he tried. "They award you the status of Heroes of Serendib. There will be a ceremony at a later date after her coronation." "Thank you," said Chaya, "although you don't look too thrilled about it." Neil kicked Chaya with the side of his foot. General Siri's face hardened. He walked up to the window and looked out at the crowds. "Don't get cocky, child. You can leave now." When they came back down to the promenade, Auntie was waiting with Father. She hugged Chaya until her breath was almost squeezed out of her. "Hero of Serendib indeed," she laughed. "As if your head could get any bigger than it already is." Chaya laughed, then gestured towards Nawa, who was standing slightly back. "Auntie, this is my friend, Nawa." Nawa blushed. "What a pretty girl," said Auntie. "Maybe you'll be a calming influence on Chaya." Nawa giggled. "Oh, I don't know about that." "Don't count on it," said Father. "If Neelan couldn't do it in all this time, I doubt anyone can." "Father, I've changed, honest." "She hasn't," said Neil. Father beamed proudly. "The king stood no chance against you 3. It was nice that it was a peaceful coup, without a drop of blood being shed, and almost worth all the hassle you gave me." "I'm so sorry for everything I put you through, Father," said Chaya. "I really am." Father smiled. "I know you are. Whatever headaches you cause me, no one can doubt you do everything out of love." I hope that hasn't just cut out then. It flashed up with a message. Father smiled. I know you are. Whatever headaches you cause me, no one can doubt you do everything out of love. Look, said Chaya, embarrassed. The sweetmeats are out. The palace servants ran around like ants, managing the feast. There was dancing and singing, and soon the Venas burst out into melody too. Come on, said Chaya, pulling Neil and Noah towards the sweetmeats stall. Noah put some sweets on a plate. I guess this is the end of your thieving days, then. Why do you think that? Said Chaya, biting into a syrupy dough ball. Things are great, and I'm sure the new queen will look after the people who need it most. But who knows? If people need it, help is at hand. You are joking, aren't you? Said Neil. Chaya licked the syrup off her fingers and slipped her hand into her pocket. Noah gasped and Neil slapped his hand on his forehead as Chaya twirled General Siri's letter opener in their faces. Relax, she said, pocketing it. He has too much stuff to miss. I'll put it to good use if someone is in need. Chaya, said Noah, I will never understand you. But I have one question. When you broke into my house, why didn't you steal any of those sugary sweets that you love so much? When I gave them to you in the jungle, that was the first time you'd tasted them. Chaya smiled as she popped another dough ball in her mouth. What do you think I am? A thief or something? She looked around her. Clusters of people stood chatting on the green, laughing with each other. Sweetmeats sizzled in hot oil, throwing their aroma around the lawns. Children darted through the crowds playing, and the three of them were back safe with their families at last. Serendib had a wise and just new queen who would rule with care and love, and in the middle of it all, Ananda lifted up his majestic head and trumpeted into the blue, blue sky. Ah, what a lovely ending, and a really exciting ending. I'm so pleased. It's so satisfying getting to the end of a book. So I hope you've enjoyed that as much as I have. Thank you to Mr. Rotherham, because it's his book. He's the one that lent it to my class. So we definitely owe him, because it was a fantastic recommendation. We've loved it. I'm going to do another book, but I haven't managed to find it yet in order to get it. Worst case scenario, I'll download it on my Kindle, but I'd quite like a book so we can look at the cover and things. So keep an eye out for announcements on the Facebook page and the website for when the next book is going to start. And enjoy your Easter weekend, everybody. Don't forget to do the clap and dance and sing tonight at 8 o'clock for carers. I think lots of people are enjoying doing that. And thank you for joining me reading the book. And if anyone that you know has missed any, or if you've missed any, they're all on the YouTube page. Bye, everyone.